Well, newly released travel data suggests Canadians are still staying away from the U.S., with Donald Trump's trade war leaving many of them making alternative travel plans.
Tourism in Las Vegas is in a big slump this summer, costing the city billions of dollars. Some are saying that could signal trouble ahead.
Fresh travel numbers are telling a story a lot of people in the U.S. don't want to hear. Canadians are still pulling back from trips south of the border, and the ripple effect is getting expensive fast. This isn't just one slow week in one tourist town. It's showing up across states, across industries, and in the most awkward way possible, because the places taking the hit are the ones that used to depend on Canadians the most. To understand why this matters,
For the U.S. economy,
More Canadians come to America than tourists from any other country. Last year, Canadians made over 20 million visits to the U.S. and spent more than $20 billion here. But this year, many are not coming to America.
you've got to start with the scale. Canadians aren't a nice bonus for U.S. tourism. They're the biggest international customer. In a typical year, Canadians rack up tens of millions of visits and drop tens of billions of dollars across hotels, restaurants, malls, ski resorts, gas stations, outlet stores, and little border towns that survive almost entirely on weekend cross-border traffic. When that stream slows down, it doesn't just dent a few gift shops, it changes budgets, staffing, rent payments, and the entire vibe of places that are built around steady Canadian foot traffic. And now a lot of that traffic is just not showing up.
We have a 25% for Canadian business. It's a discount for Canadians because of our dollar.
While there have been efforts to lure Canadians back with discounts and welcome messages,
You can actually see the desperation in the way businesses are trying to lure Canadians back. In Blaine, Washington, right under Vancouver, there's a shop with a sign that basically says, "Canadians, please come in," and offers them an across-the-board discount just for being Canadian. Not a seasonal sale, not a clearance, a straight "we need you" discount. That alone tells you something is off. Stores don't hand out a quarter off your bill because everything is fine. They do it because they're staring at quiet aisles and empty parking spaces, and they can feel the math turning against them.
Reconnect with our Canadian neighbors.
To try to do that, Kalispell has launched a Welcome Pass, where local businesses are offering Canadians deals.
Our welcome mat is out, and when you are ready to travel here, we'd love to see you. And as a token of appreciation, we're providing some discounts that you can take advantage of.
The U.S. Travel Association predicts a rebound in international tourism next year.
Blaine is a perfect example because it's one of those towns where the border isn't an abstract line on a map, it's the entire economy. Canadians used to cross for cheap gas, groceries, quick shopping runs, and easy day trips. That habit used to be so normal nobody even thought about it, but now the numbers are showing big drops at key crossings. Vehicle traffic from British Columbia through the lower mainland crossings has fallen sharply compared to last year. One shipping and receiving business in the area reported its shipping volume getting cut roughly in half, forcing shorter hours and fewer shifts. That's not a little soft, that's a business model breaking. And here's the uncomfortable part. A lot of Canadians aren't saying they stopped traveling because the U.S. is too expensive. They're saying it's about how Canada has been treated. Tariff threats, trade war vibes, and that 51st state talk that might sound like political theater on cable news, but lands very differently when you're the neighbor being talked about like property. 6 months ago, the line was, Canada should be the 51st state. Now, some of the very same communities are struggling to cover rent without Canadian license plates in their parking lots. If you move a bit south and east into Montana, you see the same story, just dressed in ski gear. Kalispell and the surrounding area have long been a winter magnet for Canadians, especially from Alberta. This season, the drop in Canadian tourism spending has been brutal. Local leaders didn't just say, "We hope visitors return." They organized a coordinated campaign, a welcome pass that bundles discounts across multiple businesses specifically aimed aimed at Canadians. Think about that. An entire town basically saying, we want to reconnect, like it's a strained relationship they're trying to repair. Because that's exactly what it is. And this is where you start to notice a pattern. The solution being offered is always a coupon, while the problem Canadians are describing is respect. You can't repair a bruised relationship with a promo code. Before we go further, quick thing. If you're into breakdowns like this that connect the data to what's happening on the ground and what it means next, make sure you subscribe. This whole story is evolving in real time, and the details matter because it's not just tourism, it's a sign of where the wider economy can start feeling pressure too. Now, zoom out to the state level and the numbers get even more serious. California, for example, isn't talking about a small dip. The state has been looking at projections that point to billions in tourism revenue at risk. International visits overall are down, and the Canadian decline is one of the pieces dragging the total lower. People working street corners in tourist zones notice it first. Fewer crowds in the usual hotspots, less spending in the middle of what should be peak season. You don't need a spreadsheet to feel it. You can hear it in the quiet. And California is only one example. The same thing is being felt in the places you'd expect. Big tourist cities, sure, but also the smaller locations that rely on repeat Canadian travel the way a restaurant relies on regulars. Detroit is a painful one because it's practically built on that Windsor connection. For years, people in Windsor treated Detroit like it was just another part of their weekend options. Dinner across the bridge, sports games, shopping, quick nights out. When that flow slows down, it hits immediately. A Detroit restaurant owner went on TV basically pleading for Canadians to return, saying the goal is to make them feel welcome again. That word again keeps popping up. Welcome again, reconnect again, come back again. It's the language of people realizing something that used to be automatic is no longer automatic, and they don't know how to switch it back on. Then there's Buffalo and Niagara Falls, where tourism organizations have been pushing Canada-focused discount campaigns. Seattle has run promotions aimed directly at Canadian visitors. You can almost map the effort like a wave. First, it's individual stores, then whole towns get involved, then tourism boards, then state-level marketing, projections, and industry reports. At a national level, tourism industry groups have been sounding the alarm too, estimating billions in lost spending tied largely to fewer Canadian visits. That's a big deal because it's not just a border town problem. It becomes a supply chain problem for hospitality, a staffing problem for restaurants, a revenue problem for cities, and a tax base problem for states that depend on tourism dollars. And it's not only the North. Florida is getting hit in its own way because Canadian snowbirds are changing their routines. Some are choosing entirely different countries instead of spending winter months in the U.S. There are Canadians openly saying they don't want to spend their money in a place that's been, in their words, belligerent or disrespectful toward them. For a lot of snowbirds, that's not a canceled weekend. That's selling a condo, changing long-term plans, building a new life rhythm somewhere else. That part matters more than people think. Habits. Tourism isn't only about price, it's about routine and comfort. Families go back to the same beaches, the same resorts, the same routes they've always taken because it's familiar. Breaking that habit is hard, but once it's broken, it can stay broken. So while U.S. towns are offering welcome passes and 25% discounts, Canadians are building new patterns. They're trying Mexico more. They're trying Central America more. They're doing staycations more. They're exploring alternatives that used to feel like maybe someday and turning them into the new normal. And here's why the discount strategy keeps falling flat. It treats the situation like a simple cost problem. Like Canadians are sitting at home saying, I would go to Montana, but the hotel is $40 too expensive. For many, that's not the conversation. The conversation is, do I feel respected there? Do I want to reward that behavior with my money? Do I want to deal with the tension at the border or the political noise that has turned into real friction? A coupon doesn't answer any of that. That's why you keep hearing Canadians say variations of, "We're staying put," or "It'll be a while before we go back," or "Things would need to change." Not prices need to drop, values need to shift, the tone needs to shift, the relationship needs to shift. And the most striking part is how quickly the desperation escalates on the American side. First, a single shop hangs a sign in the window. That's one owner trying to survive. Then, a whole town coordinates discounts. That's a local economy in trouble. Then, official tourism boards fund targeted campaigns. That's institutional panic. Then, big states start revising projections and talking about multi-billion-dollar losses. Then, national associations publish estimates and warnings. That's the industry saying this is not a blip. That's a cascade. Now, every optimistic segment you'll see ends with the same idea, but there's hope. They point to huge events like the 2026 FIFA World Cup and big national celebrations like America's 250th birthday. The idea is that these moments will bring tourists flooding back and the whole slump will reverse. But here's the problem. Events create spikes. Spikes don't undo structural shifts. A soccer tournament can pack hotels for a few weeks. Fireworks can fill restaurants for a weekend. But neither one repairs a damaged relationship. Neither one reinstalls a broken habit. And neither one automatically convinces someone who changed their winter routine to suddenly return to Florida like nothing happened. If a Canadian snowbird sells their place and buys elsewhere, that's not a temporary pause, that's a hard pivot. If families discover new favorite destinations, they don't always come back just because there's a marketing campaign. People don't move their loyalty around like a shopping cart. And that's why this story feels bigger than tourism. It's not just about hotels or outlet malls. It's about a shift in how a close neighbor reacts when they feel disrespected. It's about what happens when political talk becomes personal and people respond with